Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm here with the famous artist, David Merrill, whom I know many of you know. Some of you are related to him. It's nice to meet some of his relatives that are here today. My husband and I'm Rhonda Collins, my husband Shane Collins. We put together a book on many of David's works. There's over 100 photos of his paintings in this book. And my husband took photographs of all these. Most of them were in a private collection owned by Doug Pajorko. He's well known to your town here in Monroe. He used to teach at Monroe at Massac High School here in Monroe, and a great friend of David's. They got to know each other very well while David was doing the mural at Massac High School that later got moved just outside the doors here in the hallway. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And just to let you know, we're trying to show a video, but to everybody watching, there is a great YouTube video that the Lions Club did interviewing David. It's on YouTube, so please watch that. He talked about a lot of his favorite paintings that are in the book. And just so that you know too, all of the sales for the book go to the Newtown Lions Club charities. And it can be purchased here today, and it can also be purchased online at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, a lot of other online booksellers. So you guys here in the room have an opportunity to buy one now, but the people who are going to be watching this online later can go online to get that. And also David will be here to autograph books for us today. So David, you've had a lifetime of painting, and it's been a pleasure to work with you on this book. And since we can't watch the thing, we're going to talk about some of your favorite paintings. And I'm going to start with the birches. This one here. And also David's offering this one for sale. A great buy, only $600 if you want to take this one home with you today. So yes. David, tell us about this painting. Yeah, that might be easier for you.
Wow. The birches are a result of just loving the birch tree. It's so unique and stands out in the woods among maples and oaks, but the birch stands out as a very powerful statement, a very beautiful tree. I've always loved the birches. And at this time of doing it, it represents, and nobody knows until I tell them, that this represents my wife and I. The largest birch represents to me the maker of all things. You can call God, the creator, the maker of all things. And that's what this large birch represents. These are my 4 children. Nobody would know until I tell you. These are my 4 children. And living in Maine, I was so inspired by the landscape, and that and this painting came about that I was so compelled to paint it, and it was working in my mind for several months, and I just had to do it, and that's how that came about. And that's 1972, and so probably of all the paintings that I've done in my lifetime, this one is my favorite, as number 1. So, and I want to say I've been so lucky to find at an early age something that I love to do, and just worked at it and worked to get to improve, to keep improving and keep working. So I've been so fortunate that I started when I was in 20s, and now I'm 88. And I want to paint till I'm over 100. It's my love. I found something that I just love to do, and it started right here in Monroe, in the grammar school. so long ago. And when the teacher said it's art time, I got so excited that I just enjoyed art so much, not knowing then that it would lead to a career of many, many years and many, many paintings and touching so many people. So I've been so fortunate. And I'll tell you the truth. When I was 19, I found God. God filled me with so much love and so much energy for what I wanted to do. I've been there all the time with me. So I'm very, very fortunate to have a lifetime of doing what I love to do. And so coming back to Monroe in this building, I spent a lot of hours out there working on the mural. A lot was done at Massac High School and then was brought from Massac High School to be put onto the wall here. And a man that was so helpful, instrumental in the move was Doug Fedorko, but he's not here today. But he was so helpful in getting that mural the way it is. So.
And Doug sent a message. He's very sick. Right
Yes.
now he's got
I
a
wish
case of
Doug-
strep. Otherwise, he would have been here. And he said that he hopes you all enjoy this and that he enjoys, send their best to David today. And they really
I
love
wish
this
Doug
man.
could be here today, but he couldn't be here. But he was so important in my life. And going back to Massac High School also. Now, when I started at Massac High School to do the mural, people in the town felt that the students would be writing on the mural, putting their initials, and just mess it up. And I had faith in the children at Massac High School. They would not touch the painting, and they never did. They never did. And I made friends with so many. They would come up and talk to me while I was working. And we developed a great friendship. And I still, a lot of the students that were there at the time, one in particular started out playing golf. So I played golf with him and we played quite often. So it's an experience.
Tell us the story too. There's a picture out on the mural and it's an aerial view. And I asked David, I said, so how did you get this aerial view? Did somebody take the picture for you or did you just imagine it from up above? And now tell the story of how you got that view.
Oh, I was so fortunate. One of the students at Massac High School, a senior, had got his pilot's license and he could fly a Piper Cup. And I asked him if he would take me up. And I could see Monroe from, maybe a couple of 1,000 feet up in the air. And he said, absolutely, we'll do it. So that's how I was able to do the aerial view that's in the mural there. One of Monroe side, one of Stepney, which is part of Monroe, of course.
And there's another story while we're on Massac High School. Do you want to tell us about how this picture came to be and about the shed?
Oh, Doug Fedorko.
Doug was was he the wood shop teacher at Massac?
Yes.
And
he built that woodshed.
with the students.
And that was at Massac High School. It was a project to teach the children, or the students, some architecture building. And so I got done with it and I said, Doug, how much money do you want for that? I need a woodshed in Southbury. He said, it's yours. So I had someone come in a truck and they were able to get it onto the truck, bring it home, and it's in near my driveway at my home. So I think so it brings back a lot of memories.
Does the wood come with it, David?
Yeah, you need all those students to come over and chop the wood for you.
This is a result of, I love Maine. absolutely love the state of Maine. It has everything, oceans and the mountains. And so this is the highest point in the state of Maine. It's called Mount Katahdin. It's an Indian name meaning the greatest mountain. And so I wanted to paint Katahdin, and it's a rugged old thing. It's a lot, but I love that mountain. And so this painting came about. I had to do it. I had to do what I love. So that's how that painting came about. And I
Tell
got
about
to
this summer.
and my daughter and I, 2 years ago, we climbed it. And it was so exciting. But
And this one hangs over your fireplace, right?
yes, yes. So
Give it that part
That,
you're talking about.
yeah, I just love Maine. Oh, there's
Tell me
a
about this one.
the typical farm and the farmhouse. I want to show early in the morning, though, starting to get light. And they were having breakfast before the work of the farm. So that's just something that I put together, a way of life in New England.
And David, a lot of your paintings have
And I can't
barns.
tell you how many paintings that I've done of barns. I love barns, and they're so important. But the landscape has less and less barns as they're being removed. Probably to save taxes.
And did you have a family member that had a barn that you used to play in?
Yes, on Elm Street. My mother's brother, Herbert Johnson, had a farm on Elm Street, you know. And I used to spend so much time, I just loved to walk through the barns. And it just had the smell of the hay, and it had special memories for me. So that how my love for barns came about.
Where was it located on Elm Street?
Yeah,
Where on Elm Street? Where on Elm Street was the barn that you used to play in?
yes, Elm Street.
Do you know where?
My uncle's farm, Herbert Johnson.
Victoria.
Anybody
The
remember
Victorian house?
Herbert Johnson?
Victorian house.
Yes.
Sure, my mom does.
My dad's first. cousin.
Yes, you remember. We go back in Monroe
Shane?
many
Can you
years,
bring that painting over?
many years, yes.
If you see the yellow, huge, big, fancy house on Elm Street, on the west side of Elm Street, that is the Johnson Farm.
Okay, we'll have to go by and see it. So this is a painting. This was a surprise visitor today. One of your relatives, Norm, brought this painting of his in
Oh,
that you
yes.
painted.
Yes.
And can you tell us about this?
Well, I just started getting so interested in New England, other than barns and farmland, but the covered bridges, which are actually less and less, but they're not lasting. But I just found that I had a love for covered bridges as well as barns in New England. It was all part of the New England scene that was so important to me in my paintings. And that was how that came about.
That's something.
Sure,
When
absolutely.
we added on to our house, a big family room, David came over to look at the architecture before he painted the covered bridge for me.
Oh, that's
My mom
terrific.
ordered that,
Yeah, she commissioned that.
commissioned that.
Wow.
She liked covered bridges.
You just wanted a covered bridge, the
Yeah,
sunset, and that's what David came up with.
Yeah.
that's terrific.
That was 50
Thank you
some
so
years.
much for bringing that in. And we have a picture of this now, so this may be in the next edition of the book.
That was like 50 something years ago.
1969.
69, okay.
That's
So-
beautiful.
Right.
I think the important thing is that you find in your life what you love to do the most and do it and enjoy it. And no matter what it is, just enjoy. And enjoy each other. Those that are married, people here that have their couples, that are married, man and wife, treasure every minute that you're together. Every minute as a treasure. And appreciate each other and love each other. Because I found that my wife had passed on. And I miss her so much. Miss her so much. But that's life. We go on. We move on.
Well, since you're talking about your wife, he actually lost 2 wives, and
Yeah.
we're sorry to hear that. The
I've had
second-
3 wives.
Oh,
They're in heaven, all 3.
oh. Yeah.
One big
Who's
happy
gonna be
family.
the 4th?
He's looking for candidates. Oh. It's been unbelievable watching. So I have to have him tell you a funny story they told me. So David not only did the mural here, but he also did a big one in Southbury, the first one, and then he also did a huge one in Newtown. And there's pictures of it in the book as well. And I have him tell you a funny story about how he met Merrill, his last wife that he had, and how she met and why she said that she couldn't possibly marry you.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I'm doing a mural in Edmond Town Hall. And this lovely lady walked by going to work. She worked in the tax collector's office, assistant tax collector. Her name was Merrill. And for 1 year, she walked by in the morning, went home in the afternoon, and she said, "Good morning, have a good day." And I said the same to her. So then, I'll tell you, we had a Christmas party in the clerk's office at Edmond Town Hall, and she was there. And it came time to leave. She was standing right next to me. And I can't believe this has happened. We kissed each other on the lips right then. And little did I know, she became my wife
After that.
that same year.
But
We had,
But the reason that she said she couldn't possibly marry you, because then her name would be,
Merrill. She was teasing me. She was there. We had 33 wonderful years together. And I enjoyed living with her so much. She was an inspiration to me. That's so important.
so
Yes.
we have a lot of painting or picture photographs of the paintings around the room there for sale. So the proceeds from the book all go to the Lions Club charities. The proceeds from these go to David. And we want to support him as the wonderful artist that he has been. And he's been so generous and he's given away so much of his artwork. That's why we're trying to sell some paintings to give to him now. But since we just saw the lovely painting of the covered bridge, here's another covered bridge that's in the book. And do you want to say anything about this painting or that you did? Did you make it up or is it a real one?
Yeah, the covered bridge, I had not done enough with the covered bridge in New England. So then I decided that I would, and they come in all sizes. Some are very long, some are short, and this one's a short one, but it's just something that I wanted to add to my repertoire, or, continue loving New England as all part of New England. And there's still quite a few left in Vermont. There's some covered bridges up there. But Connecticut doesn't, maybe one left. That's all.
A few more. Tell us a story when you were in the Army and how you missed New England and what you did to start your
I think that's where my career got started. I was in the military and I went in for 3 years and then you were done. If you went 2 years, then you had to go to meetings for, I think, 7 years after. So I put in an extra year, so I'd be finished with the military. So then, but actually I took up painting while in the service in Kentucky, Fort Knox, Kentucky. I just had a lot of time on the weekends, and that's when I took up painting. And I sent home to my mother and father some of my work that I did. She sent me back a box of paints, rolls of canvas, and,
But the first thing that you did while you were in the Army, what did you use for your paintbrushes, your paint, and your canvas?
the canvas.
So what did you get? You told me you got a paint by number kit.
Oh, yeah, but I wanted to paint so bad. I saw a scene in my mind of New England. It was a dirt road going up to the top of a hill, and there was a barn at the top of the hill. And this was in my mind, in my vision. So to do it, I went to the PX, bought a paint by number set, and made my own scene over the numbers. That's where it really began, a long time ago. I think it was, wow.
So Doug commissioned a lot of paintings and he's been collecting them. He's got over 100 paintings. And there was a series he wanted David to do for him. And he says, I want drama. Give me 10 paintings with drama. And I think this was one of them.
That was one of the,
Yeah.
the ones.
You want to tell us anything about this one?
And something that's actually a local scene in Sandy Hook. And I just wanted a feeling of the sun going down, but you get that glow, you get a glow in the sky. It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it's really spectacular. And so how that came about.
And there's a barn in it too.
Yes, and of course, there again, I love barns. And this is more of an Amish. Merrill and I took a trip down to Amish country, and so this one of the I love that the part of the Amish, and then I put a black cat, and I named it the Black Cat on the porch, but that's part of branching out in time. And this is the only windmill that I've ever painted in this painting. It's the only time I put a windmill in the painting. And Doug owns this, and that brick house. And I call it the snowman. There's a little snowman there. But that's just a finishing touch.
Yeah. And I
But
thought
that's how
that
it
it
came
looked like,
about.
with the arms outstretched, it looked like the snowman was just, they're welcoming
Welcome,
anybody
yes,
coming
yeah, snowman,
into
welcome
the-
you
to the scene.
to come. Wow.
And the murals outside the hallway, I was gonna have everybody go outside, but since this is being recorded for people to watch
Yes,
later,
this
we will
is
see. So
all what
we'll talk
out there.
a little bit about this. David was going through and, I could have been here for the next like 3 weeks saying, okay, this is where I went to school. This is where my so-and-so lived. This is where my uncle preached in this church. This is where I went to youth group. Do you want to
Yes.
tell us some of the stories that are on the
Yeah,
mural?
this was a church. I was baptized in a congregational church up on the green. And then my father's brother, Edward Merrill, was a Episcopal minister for 50 years. He spent 1 year in St. Peter's and then went to Old Saybrook, and he was there for the rest of his career. Uncle Ed,
And is that where you went to your youth group?
St. Peter's at the green, up here on the green.
He said, didn't you go to their youth group? Didn't they have the youth group there that you went to? Is that the one?
Oh, yes, yes. And I was altar boy there for several years. I lit the candles and put them out. And so that was very important. Both churches are extremely important to me in my early years and growth. And
Can you tell us about some of the other paintings?
but this house was a Victorian house, and that was my mother's. My mother was born there, and my sister Martha was born in a house, the Victorian up on Elm Street. And so that goes back quite a ways. This is Monroe School of many, many years ago.
Is that where you went to school?
Yes, That's where I went to school and graduated in 1949. And it was so much, but I wanted to put all the churches in Monroe in the mural that's out here. That's all part of it. So
Did you have a question?
How about your cousin with the airport?
you have to,
About your cousin with the airport.
at the airport.
Did your cousin have an airport?
Monroe
Yeah.
Airport's on there.
Oh,
Ben Hurd Airport in town. Okay,
My grandfather.
okay. My mother said, never, no matter what, go up in an airplane. Never. Well, unfortunately, I didn't follow her instructions. And Bill Brown and I were up at the airport, and a fellow had, right, and he said, you young guys want to go up with me? How could we refuse? Right? But my mother said, never. So my friend Bill Brown gets home before I do. He calls my mother and told me we went up in the airplane. I was grounded for 2 weeks. Wow. But it's all part of the memories of this beautiful town of Monroe. And
so this was the original one that was at Massac High School, right?
yes,
And then you added on
yes,
part
over the
top
doors.
and all of this as well?
Yes, and then one was the library here that you can see out there. It's over the doors. So
And the aerial shot that you
it's all
took,
part of it.
these two are the aerial shots?
Yes,
that
one
you-
is Stepney side of Monroe and the other is right up here, Monroe Green. And it's all part of
Did you take a
this beautiful
photograph?
town.
You're one.
And there's so much.
Did you take a photograph from the plane
Yes, yes,
so you can remember all those
to see
details?
what everything looked like.
And this is a map of Monroe.
Monroe. So I added
Yeah.
more subjects. There was more subjects to add and that they're in on the map that's out in the hall.
Why was it moved from the Massac to
You have to,
Why did they move the mural from Massac High School here to the library?
it was felt that it would get more exposure
Thank you.
and more people in the town could come and see
Thank
the
you.
mural. But there were certain restrictions at Massac High School for people to come. A very, lot of restrictions. So here, it was opened up to the public. That's the reason.
How did you do that?
And Doug
Here.
Fedorko, who was the teacher at Massac, who cut it off of the wall and transported it here, he said that the day that they moved it here from Massac happened to be the windiest day that year. And to have that huge piece of mural blowing, it was quite the challenge to get into
Oh,
the
yes.
building here. Trying to manhandle that. So are there any on this side that you want to talk about?
Oh, yes, the 70 side, but there's so much to the town and so many beautiful homes. And the dam. The dam at Lake Shore, I want to put that in too, but there was so much to cover the town well. And really make a statement of for people to see, but my love for the town always. I mean, every one of you, regardless of where you live now, the hometown that you grew up in will always be so important. So important.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Yeah, and David, you had a lot of relatives in this area.
a lot of relatives.
And most of these
There's a relative
tours
right
that we
there.
do and exhibits and talks, whether
Right there.
they're in Southbury or, Newtown or wherever we go.
Oh,
We have
yes.
a good portion of the room is filled with relatives. It's like, how many relatives could you possibly have, David? They all come out, they all love him and tell great stories.
Quite a few, yes, quite a few. But, and then I had this open space, so it was so perfect to put the American flag and Connecticut state flag also. So that's all part of what's there. So
And David likes to tell a story about playing football in a unique location.
on the green.
I thought it was in the street.
Oh, in the tree. Okay. Now we're going back to the 1940s, late 40s, 47, 48. And Bill Brown and I, we could be in Main Street, Route 111, and throw the football back and forth. 20 minutes, no cars. Now it's a super highway. So we would never do that again. So that was all part of growing up in the town. There's so many memories. And I'm sure everyone here goes back to your hometown. And you have so many memories that are so important to you. Way back when you think about it, when you were young. You're still young. Everyone here is young.
So,
We have a book of people that have been signing for comments about David. So when you get a chance, before you leave,
yeah, please sign the guest book.
I just have never understood how they moved the mural and what is it painted on? Was it on a canvas? Was it on the wall? And how did they move that mural?
So at Massac High School, when you first painted on that, is that plywood that you were painting on or what
It was
surface?
a masonite,
Masonite. That I understand.
and it was attached to a wall, like a building they were put on. And then that was brought down here, but I added more, as I say, because it was a larger wall.
So is the other side also on masonite?
Yes,
The other
Yes,
side's too.
it's
And
all-
masonite's heavy.
all part of it. And we added much to it. And then lady back there, you were a witness,
Yes.
a witness, as you were.
Did you work here at the library?
Librarians.
children's librarian
And
when David
do
was
you have a
working
question?
on the mural, and he worked quite a long time, David. Was it almost a year?
Yes.
Did you work for a year on the mural out here?
Seemed like a year.
I was
Yeah.
about that, yes.
Yeah, and she said she was the
Because we
children's,
added more
yeah,
to it.
she was
You didn't
the.
get
But
another
you were an
wife?
inspiration to me.
We had that one. She would have been happy about that.
Important librarians in the building, yes.
Her name's Margaret. She was the children's librarian. So she had a good view because isn't that the children's library just right on the other side of your wall?
So all the librarians became very good friends.
Yeah.
Very good friends.
That's
Good to
great.
hear. That's all.
Now, where's the Bond Farm at?
This was the Bond Farm, was on Route 25 going south, or north. It was on, as you go south, it was on the right side if you're coming the other way. But this was the Bond Farm
And that's Monroe, right?
in, Stepney, part of Monroe, yes.
Across from Duchess.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful colors in this one. I like
Thank
those
you.
bright
Thank you very
colors.
much.
And here's another one that got some bright colors.
That's a scene that I just made up. I just out of my mind, I just wrote up barns, my love for barns, that's all. In the autumn. Because I was given a gift, I think I was a gift, I don't know if everybody can, but I can see in my mind, seen so sharp in my mind's eye. And it's just, I think it's a gift. I'm sure some of you are the same, where you can see in your mind an image. And so I worked from that in my paintings. In other words, I didn't go to the scene with a sketch and make sketches and I used them, came from my mind into my study of knowing the subject. Knowing something is very important.
I thought it was just, I assumed he was there painting it, looking at it.
So somebody had asked last time, do you paint outside? So do you like
No.
have a
I never paint
canvas
outside, never. What happens when you go outside, the sun's moving, the shadows change, the atmosphere changes. Everything is in here, inside the house. That's it. Never outside. It's too frustrating.
Leslie's doing a big mural like on the flag trees in Newtown.
Now,
That's a difference.
that was outside. That's different. I was commissioned to paint the American flag on 6 trees in Newtown. And I got the call from Howard Lasher, and he had these trees near 302, Route 302. It was very close. There were 6 trees. And he wanted me to put the American flag on these trees.
Yeah, I was
That's it.
looking for it.
Yeah, that's the one. And that was a huge challenge,
Is that after 9/11?
huge challenge.
Is that after 9/11?
Yes.
Yes. And judging the height, the width, and they had open spaces, which I think people said when they drove by, the spaces would change and it looked like the flag was moving. As they described it.
How does it
But
look
that
today?
was-
Is it painted or?
That was another
It's
challenge.
that.
But I am ready for a challenge, no matter what it is.
So I had taken a picture of this. Howard Lasher had worked at Cantor Fitzgerald and he lost a lot of his associates, fellow associates. And so he wanted David to pick out a place to do a memorial. And they walked around the property for about an hour, wasn't it? And then Howard, and then you said, this is where your memorial is gonna
This
be.
is your,
This is
your
it.
painting. This
And-
is your American flag. Yeah.
And there was at one time that some kids vandalized it and then the fire department came and washed that off and David Reeve did it. And then it was over the years, it was starting to get a little bit worn, because trees, they kind of shed their bark and stuff. And I was getting ready to take a picture for the book and I had just did a lot of Photoshop on this to get rid of all the little spots that had fallen off. 2 weeks later, I pull out the Newtown being on the front of it, David Merrill restoring this light trees. So, but anyway, this was the touch up one. And then if you ever go to Blue Jay Orchards,
Blue Jay Orchard,
Yeah, this
yes,
is-
I was commissioned to paint the flag on,
that's on the barn where they sell
On
the
the-
apples and
on
all
the
of it.
wood,
Apple cider
yeah.
donuts that are really
Yes.
good and their pumpkins and stuff.
And it was interesting. It was 97 degrees in August. And there was a deadline they wanted it finished by a certain time, so, wow, it was hot.
They're having a celebration, so you
But
got
it
a
got
deadline
done.
on that one.
Anything that I ever started, I finished. No matter, sometimes it was struggle, but I learned from the struggle, I learned. Hardship, we learn. That's it.
Tell us about this one called Coming Home
Yes, that was,
with the yellow ribbons tied around
and
the
the yellow
trees.
ribbon, yes, there was a song. Remember the song about the yellow ribbon?
Yeah, yellow
That-
ribbon.
That
It's only
came
Orlando.
Yeah.
about that
And-
time, and the importance of the American flag. And there's, remember, so much interest, okay, American flag, people are flying on the cars, had them on the cars,
After 9/11.
and it brought us all together as loving this great country, and it is a great country. We're so fortunate to live in the United States. Wonderful. And this is just typical New England, going back to the mountains, northern New England, more Vermont, New Hampshire. And wanted to show a little bit of sun, draw the attention to the foreground, and then have that expansive distant view. But it's my love for New England. That's
Is
it.
that off Route 7 in northern Vermont?
That's
Is
it.
it off Route 7 in northern Vermont?
Northern Vermont?
Is that where this is? Do you-
Yes,
Or did you-
yes, I know Northern Vermont. Yes. I'm unfortunately, I've still got good eyesight with the glasses, but my hearing has lessened a lot.
when we did the Southbury show, one of the ladies there, she says, oh, I sold him his hearing aids and he's not wearing them today. I'm seeing the same thing today.
Okay. But this I did. I had, my wife, had cancer. I knew that her life would end in a short time. And I met with a doctor at Portland Medical Center in Maine and said that your wife will not live too much longer. So, and I never painted at night, never, except this painting. I went 50 miles back home. It was 7 o'clock in the evening and I started this painting and I finished it before midnight. And that's how that painting came about. It was just the drama, a lot of drama that I felt.
And you called this one
I
a
knew I
protein
was losing
storm.
my wife and the mother of my children. Wow.
Protein
You
storm.
know, you can replace a wife very easily.
Don't tell my husband.
But you can never replace a mother of your children. Never. The mother of your children are so important. So important. Anyway.
And while we're talking about that one, this was the
Oh,
day of her funeral.
This was in Hiram, Maine, and this is a church, it's a Methodist church in Hiram, Maine. And that's where the funeral was for my first wife and the mother of 4 children. And that was the steeple. So that's the first painting I did after her funeral.
And there was just a couple more that I was gonna talk about. One is David's shoes, his sneakers. Your son had a pair of sneakers that you painted. I think it's near the end of the book. And when we did the exhibit at the Newtown Library, David Jr. came to it and he said, I always look at that and I think, Dad, why in the world would you paint my old smelly sneakers?
Oh, that's my, yeah, that end of summer. That was my son's sneakers, so I just thought that'd be an interesting subject to paint. That's all.
Yeah, and then
And
tell
the
us about,
apple.
what were you watching when you painted that?
That was the first game of the 1967 World Series with the Red Sox. I think it was the St. Louis Cardinals. And is that true? I think it was the Cardinals and the Boston Red Sox. And I did that morning before the game of the apple.
Okay.
I don't know, it's just something that.
And when you were doing the Edmond Town Hall, you have a lot of
Yes,
portraits
this is
on
my
that.
wife Beryl,
So this is the lovely barrel
and that's in that painting of hers is in the town hall
where she worked,
there.
where they met.
And these were the original owners and creators of the Newtown Bee. And Mary Hawley, who gave so much, she inherited millions of dollars from her parents. And she turned around and gave it to the town. And at Hawley School, Edmond Town Hall,
Booth Library.
and the library and also the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. She gave so much to the town. And she never married,
She married briefly,
very briefly.
very briefly. They
Very
went on their
briefly.
honeymoon to Europe and she came back
Yeah,
alone.
that's true, that's true.
Doesn't really know the
It was.
whole story behind that.
Because,
He was a minister.
yeah, she married a minister and they went to Europe and France.
I think it was France.
And it was the father and mother went right over there and got her and annulled the wedding, the marriage,
Yeah.
annulled the marriage.
Okay, and
I don't
then
know why they didn't want her to marry.
I'll tell just a brief story here how David and I met. And my son was going in the army and he was supposed to be going in the next day and the recruiter showed up a day early and said, I'm here to get you. And I'm saying, oh, we've got a dinner plan tonight, everything else. I said, sorry. So he had grabbed his backpack and he left. And I had an exhibit going on, we're photographers, and had exhibit at the municipal center. And I went to the municipal center and David was installing this new memorial to the Newtown veterans. And I started crying. And he was so kind. And he says, you give me your name and your phone number. He says, and as soon as your son finishes his basic training, he goes, I'll put his name up on this wall too. And he called me a couple times to see how I was doing and how he was doing. Just the kindest man. And then it just happened that another day I was going in to check on another exhibit we were having, and he had just finished painting my son's name on the wall, our son's name on the wall. And I started losing it again. So I have a picture of David pointing to my son's name that he had just painted on the wall. I don't believe that was a coincidence. And took some pictures of David. So that's the back cover that is really special and means a lot to me. And so when I had an opportunity to do this with David, I've always been such a fan of his work that I was really blessed to be able to be a part of it. And was there any other stories that you want to tell?
Oh, wow.
Or if anybody else has any questions?
We
We'll
covered
wrap
so
up.
much. We covered so much. It's just,
Did you live above the grocery store that was in Monroe when you were young, there was a store?
Did you live above the Monroe store when you were young, the Monroe grocery store?
above, yes, above Monroe store, which was down
Is that like
below.
where CVS is? now?
Yes, and the painting of it is there with the store below. We lived upstairs. But my mother and father owned the whole building, of course,
Okay.
and they rented it out to the people that had the store. And
Oh, your father didn't have. a
yeah, a lot of memories there. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's all gone. It's a parking lot for CVS.
Do you know who owned the store? Do you know who owned that store?
My father, yes, he had the store.
Oh, it was your father's
Early on.
store.
And then in later years, they rented out to Mr. Buckley, who had a general store underneath of where we lived. And then the garage housed the school bus from Monroe. So in the winter time, when it snowed, I knew whether it's gonna be school or not, because the bus didn't show up. A lot of stories, a lot that,
For the
you
internet.
know, you forget.
And the last few weeks, David has been busy. He's still painting, and he was going down to Manhattan to paint happy clouds
Happy clouds on
on
a
a
ceiling
ceiling of a
in a hotel
very nice.
on 50th Street. In
A
Manhattan.
very
you know.
highly sought after hotel
Wow.
that he had
The
connected.
Kimberly Hotel. Kimberly Hotel. And
Then I asked him, I said, can we go in, like, is it in the lobby or someplace that we can see it? And he says, no, he says, it's up on the 9th floor in a couple suites. So if you guys want to see it, you have to, pay for the suite. He said he got to stay in that suite. And well, he painted it and they brought you all the food and drinks that you wanted, all the coffee that you could
Oh.
drink and.
it was marvelous. It was marvelous. And I enjoyed the ceiling, happy clouds on the ceiling. I was the first.
And what did you stand on to paint that?
Oh, just they had a platform with wheels on it and you could move it around.
Yeah.
So it's there. And I was that far from, and with a brush, I could reach very easily. So I painted sky, happy clouds.
Isn't that hard on your arms after holding them up?
Internet.
Is that hard on your arms to do that?
No, I was, in my mind, I was so focused on what I was painting that I didn't have any problem with, let the painting come first.
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna have to call you David Michelangelo Merrill. Assisting Jeff.
I'll paint anywhere, anytime, no matter what. That's just the way that I am.
And then you told me that you worked 6 days a week on the Edmonton Hall.
6 days a week, never pay on Sunday. That's the Lord's day. Never pay on Sunday. Time
Anybody
for
else?
worship.
Another question?
I'd like to take you back to Barn. I was born and raised in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, on a farm.
And barns have been in my life all my life. And a few years back, the state offered the photographers, I was a photographer, to take pictures of the barn because we were losing them. And so I did Easton and Monroe. I found just a bit over 100 barns in Monroe,
And
and I photographed them. And so it's amazing. A few barns that are left, and I just can stay back home. They're growing houses instead of farms.
Yeah, a lot of barns are disappearing, so it's a good thing that you captured them in your paintings so that we
yes,
can
there is-
remember.
There is a lot, changing New England is changing, especially southern part of New England.
And
Yeah.
I think like, was it 2011, we
Yeah.
had that huge ice storm, so we had these 150-year-old barns that a lot of roofs collapsed, and they collapsed during that because, well, even some of the high school roofs were collapsed.
We lost 500 barns.
500 barns during that storm in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
500 barns.
Yeah, it was devastating for that. And it's great that you have painted a lot of things that no longer exist. You know, we hear a lot of people saying, oh, I remember going to plays.
All the
It's out there
plays,
at
yeah, they're great
Playhouse.
plays.
Ed
Yeah.
Sullivan even played there.
Yeah. And now it's Playhouse Square,
Yeah.
all stores,
Yes.
Dunkin' Donuts. You have a question?
Yeah.
One of the prints that you've done back in 79, I think it was, we have one in the Congregational Church, number 40 out of 500.
Mhm.
It's an aerial shot of the old Monroe Center.
Yeah, that one too.
And you can see St. Peter's steeple in the foreground. And you capture all the houses around it that existed at that time. Was that an aerial shot, or was that from your mind's eye?
Is it the same one that's on the mural?
I don't think so. No, I have I'll show you the
It
picture.
looks like he's on the roof of St.
Yeah.
Peter's.
Did you ever go on the roof of St. Peter's to get a picture of the green in your
It looked
mind?
like you were sitting on top of the St. Peter's roof.
I've developed the ability to be able to put any building into proper perspective, even if you're up high looking down on it. It's just a study of perspective.
Oh, okay.
It's like you have a eye level line, anything below it, you're looking down, and above, you're looking up, but it's the eye level from your eye level. And if you're sitting down, of course, your eye level is much lower. You stand up, it's the eye level. And so it I can picture myself way up, looking down. Way down, looking up. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
So you don't take a picture of a barn and then go home and paint it. You just look at the barn and go home and paint it. Basically, right?
So do you look at the barn or and then paint it, or do you take a picture of it and paint from the picture?
Usually not for photograph, but for making sketches and drawings. And knowing how to paint shingles and the texture of the barns and the knots in the woods, and it's all studied, you know, for the years.
And sometimes you add extra features to the
Oh,
barn.
Yeah, I got a commission to paint the husky dog,
Yukon.
or man, Yukon. And we put on the back and the shingles, a lighter color saying Yukon. And then HU Huskies on the roof, but the dog, he wanted the dog. I said, okay, we'll put the dog. And a husky. So that's part of our wonderful history of Connecticut, having a great basketball team, national champions.
Playing at 1 o'clock?
Oh, we'll be like, there's some cookies and some water if you want some refreshments. You
Yeah,
can take a
Yes.
look at the different
Yes.
photos of the paintings that we have done. We have a few lithographs over here. We've got the guest book to sign. We've got books to sign. David is happy to autograph any of the books or the paintings that you might purchase today. And,
Finishing up.
you know, I think we're gonna finish up here so everybody can get back for the game.
I thank you all for coming. It's so great to see all of you people and. Yeah.
If you want to take a spot over here.
Okay.
and-
Picture of
Yeah.
David and my